Hello everyone, Andy here, and here's what you can look forward to in today's episode. In today's episode, I was joined by 49ers fan Paul Hope and Seahawks fan Josh Edwards as we preview the NFC Divisional Round Games. Josh tells us why he's a Seahawks fan and how impressed he's been with Sam Darnold this season.
It's very rare in my NFL watching history where you'll have the leader or captain of the defense go up and back for your QB.
Paul discusses the threat of Jackson Smith and Jigba against the 49ers secondary.
Unfortunately, we haven't got those same defenders because they're all in the hospital. So I couldn't tell you who's going to take the field for the Niners. There's a long time between now and Saturday night.
And much more as we predict the winners of both this game and also Bears against Rams. Hope you all enjoy. Hello everyone and welcome back to the Across the Pod NFL podcast. I am as ever your host today, Andy Davis, and today we are previewing the NFC Divisional Round matchups. And with me, I've got two guests on the show who support one of each team who are playing each other this weekend. So our first guest in the red and gold corner back on the show is 49er Faithfuls UK's Paul Hope. Paul, good to have you back on. How are you? Are you feeling pretty good?
I'm feeling pretty good, Andy, after that win at the weekend, which, Ollie, it's all right, son. You can come and get some love because I called a 49ers win, Andy, and I stuck my neck on the line, and not many people thought I'd be sat here this week, did they? So it's good to be back. It's been a while, and thanks for having me on, buddy.
Well, yeah, we did have myself and Panthers fan Keg and also Rams fan Sam Andrews. And not any of us picked the Niners to win. We all went for the Eagles to win, as well as the Rams and the Packers, which no one got a single. So we only got one correct score out of three. So yeah, no, it wasn't a great weekend. Bills. So AFC wise, we had better results, but yeah, NFC was not a proud moment, but yeah, it's been one hell of a season for the Niners, and they prepared to take on their fierce rivals, the Seahawks, in the divisional round. And speaking of the Seahawks, in our blue and silver corner, we have today a first timer on the show. It is Seahawks fan Josh from 12 Talk. Josh, good to have you on for the first time.
No, thanks for having me on, Andy. It's a pleasure to be here. It's nice not to be hosting a podcast and to be guesting on someone else's, especially when we're going to talk about, like you said, a fierce rivalry and what's going to be an absolutely outstanding game.
Absolutely. It should be an outstanding weekend because I think a lot of NFL fans, myself included, will say that actually a lot of the best games, the best round of games often in playoffs is the divisional round. I don't know why this is, but we've had some, going through some classic moments. You've had, 8 years. Well, today recording on January 14th, 8 years ago today, since Stephon Diggs' Minneapolis Miracle. We've had, that Chiefs divisional round game, the Chiefs Bills game in the divisional round, 2021 season to early 2022. We had the 2014 season, Des Bryant, did he catch it moment with Cowboys Packers. We had the Jacoby Jones touchdown over 70 yards against the Broncos with just 30 seconds remaining of regular time in a Ravens win in overtime. In that season, they won the Super Bowl. And of course, probably the most famous moment in NFL playoff history, or at least one of them, back in 2001, we had the tuck rule moment as the Patriots beat the Oakland Raiders. So yeah, divisional round, very exciting times. And, me personally, I'm speaking from a neutral. No real horse in the race when it comes to this. Well, to certainly Seahawks 49ers. This should be a hell of a game. They've already played twice this year. Yeah, it should be an exciting game. But Josh, for you, first of all, you are a first timer on the show. We like to ask all of our new guests the same question, which is why you chose, out of all 32 teams across the pond, your team. So for you, Josh, what made you a Seahawks fan?
I'm going to show my age here, but it's when they used to show the NFL on Channel 4 late night when you were supposed to be tucked up, ready for school on Monday. Flicked it on my TV, and it was a Seahawks Raiders game. And I just started watching it. I absolutely fell in love with that team. You had sort of Ricky Watters at running back. aspect. We had sort of tears. There was Walt Jones. They really, really captured my imagination. And I started. So I'm from a rugby background, so I love a contact sport. My dad's always been an NFL fan. And I started following it a bit closer after sort of seeing them, just checking up on results. Then the next season, I really got into him, sort of Sean Alexander's rookie season, and going through all of that, and it's just sort of stuck. Fell in love with the culture. I'm a huge rock fan, so obviously the grunge scene was all from there as well. And then just following this team through the highs and lows. The start of my fandom was mainly lows, apart from that Super Bowl appearance in 2005, and then we had a bit of a lull, and it all came back up with sort of Pete Carroll. And then after the Super Bowl, it became a bit more tenuous and hard to watch, but still followed them all the way through. I've got a 12 tattoo, now host the UK Seahawks official podcast. So yeah, it's been a good. The last 2 seasons have been so fun to watch for us. Just the complete change in mindset in the team, in results as well.
Yeah, I mean, it has been. I think for both teams this year, a really unexpected season. I mean, I know I had the Niners winning the division, but not many people had the Niners doing much because of players that had left, and players getting older, and the Seahawks. I think we all thought Darnold was maybe a one season wonder. Maybe he was made to look good because of who he was throwing to. But both teams have completely exceeded expectations. I mean, the Seahawks, I don't think anyone would have had them winning that division, let alone winning the number 1 overall seed in the process. So, yeah, it's been, for both teams, a real good season. And I think this is why, even more so, it's going to be an exciting game, because we've seen what both teams can do. And, they've overcome a bit of adversity. I mean, the Niners in particular. I mean, Paul, the Niners had so many injuries, and we've not talked since you came on for the season preview. I mean, Niners themselves, I mean, Kyle Shanahan, for me, has to be a coach of the year candidate, because the job he's done, despite the players he's lost this season, and he's still managed to make the divisional round, albeit as a 6th seed. But yeah, completely not what a lot of people would have expected going into the year, even with the easy on paper schedule.
I mean, I said Josh may agree with me. 4 NFC teams left, 3 from the NFC West. And we always say the NFC West is the hardest division in football to get out of. And people laugh. And obviously you go back to what Josh was saying about the Pete Carroll, the Harbaugh, then Shanahan came in. And the journey that we've had with Shanahan as coach, I'm smiling because for me, yes, he is coach of the year. We lost free agency. If you listen to all the talking heads, all the players went off. We then lost player after player with injuries. And we had a watch party earlier in the season, and it was when Warner went down. And if somebody had put a pause on that moment and said, in week 20, Paul, you're going to be going on across the pod with Andy, talking with a Seattle fan about the divisional round, I'd have said, where do I sign? Yes, please. And it's just been such a roller coaster. I mean, if we win this and we get to the championship game, it'd be the 5th appearance in 7 years under Shanahan. And it's just been one of those seasons where, ironically, I've had a lot of turmoil off the field, Andy, hence why I've not done much podcasting. And my partner said to me on Sunday, as I was getting ready to travel to Leeds, because we hosted the official Niners watch party, you haven't had like a moment this year with the Niners, Paul. Like the games have kind of been a little bit kind of like up and down. And then when I came home on earlier was Sunday, couldn't talk, show my phone that we've won the game. And, we're coming into this as the number 6 seed. I'm not going to come on here tonight, Andy, and be trashing the Seahawks. We were humbled in week 18. We only put 3 points up. We've only conceded 26 points in 2 games against the Seahawks this year. But that defense does have us worried. I'm not going to lie. However, we're here, divisional football. And as you said, Andy, last week, you guys picked your picks. The playoffs have started brilliantly, haven't they? They've all been pretty close, or 90% of the games have literally been decided in the last play of the game on the 4th quarter. So, yes, my Niners have been pretty beat up. You know me, Andy, I'm a positive kind of guy, but we're here, week 20, and I'm very confident, Josh. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. I mean, Josh, for you, sticking with Paul, when Sam Darnold signed that deal, you got rid of Geno Smith to the Raiders, obviously you have had a decent year last year, but Sam Darnold had an amazing year with the Vikings. And how are you feeling when he signed? Because he is a guy that had, well, when he signed for you, his last 2 games been disastrous for the Vikings. He had the playoff loss, he had the game before against the Lions, which cost that #1 overall seed. Did you think? I don't think Darnold's been perfect, but certainly he's been having had a good season for the Seahawks. I mean, did you ever expect this team to be where they are now when Darnold came through the door and being that division that you're in?
I mean, much like Paul said there, the NFC West is the toughest division in football, bar none. Everyone will talk about the AFC with the Chiefs and the Broncos and whatnot, but I think this year has really put a stamp on it. At the start of the season, my co-host and I, we said that the Seahawks would probably go 11-6, 12-5 if it was going really well. And we did a bit of a deep dive into Darnold. And from my point of view as a sports coach, I looked at sort of Darnold's journey. He got drafted by a dumpster fire, played like hot garbage, was then jettisoned. He's then spent time in different schemes with different coaches. The Niners, obviously, he learned from the Shanahan tree there. And he's really come through adversity. When he was thrust into the limelight with the Vikings, it wasn't by chance he was good. He was drafted so high because he's a good QB. But by his own admittance, he didn't realize how fast the NFL was and how much pressure was put on him. Those last 2 games for the Vikings, look at his O-line. His O-line was made of rice paper. He was under so much duress constantly. And it's not been much better from the right side of our O-line, especially with a right guard that we try not to name too much because he seems to get all the flack and all of the highlight or low light reels, as you will. But I think he's been superb. He's had a couple of wobbles, but name me a QB this year that hasn't. Every QB has those wobbles, but I think he's come into this organization. Everyone's really gravitated towards him. Everyone said how much of a leader he is, how well he's taken to the team, to Seattle. He's taken to the scheme. Mike McDonald loves him. It's very rare in my NFL watching history where you'll have the leader or captain of the defense go up and bat for your QB. And Ernest Jones did that quite candidly, with some choice language as well. But I think that's the following that Sam Darnold's got. People know that he can lead them to victory. I mean, you look at some of the fourth quarter drives he's led, and he's been superb. He just needs to, the ball doesn't need to be in his hands as much as some other QBs. That's all I'm going to say. I think if you allow him to have a run game, which over the last 2-3 games has really, really come to fruition, and then let Darnold pick apart defenses that way by picking his poison. Play action's been fantastic. I think he is up there in the top 10 QB conversation without a doubt. And I mean, props to the 49ers. You've taken Mr. Irrelevant and you've made him look like a top 10 QB as well, apart from when he plays the Seahawks defense.
Well, he's not got a bad record. You're only going off one game. But to be fair to Darnold, Andy, I mean, as a Niners fan, Josh, my fandom began in 2012. So as you'll see behind Colin Kaepernick, I fell in love with Colin Kaepernick. I won't bore Andy's viewers to know my story. So my dislike of your team started purely because you used to beat me all the time. I hated Russell Wilson. The Seahawks was like my biggest rivalry. So on the 49er Faithful UK, the 4 podcasters, the Rams tend to be their rivals, where for me it was the Seahawks. It was always a rivalry game. And it's funny you mentioned sports coach. So I play a lot of flag football. And I coached an under-14 team last year, and a lot of the kids were Seahawks fans. And when you have that relationship with the kids, and there's a little bit of cheeky banter, it soon dilutes. And then we were chatting off air about our collections. And with the NFL being such a niche sport in the UK, I think there's that kind of like mutual respect between all the fan bases. And we saw Sam Darnold up close, Andy. I mean, there was talk that there was a bit of a camp battle between Darnold and Purdy. And some of the beat writers were saying, actually, Darnold's looking pretty good. He can throw the ball quite well. I suppose the knock, Josh, that people are going to say on Darnold is he hasn't kind of put the team on his back yet. But Mike McDonald doesn't need him to do that. You've got an elite defense. You've got a great run game. He's thrown for nearly 4,000 yards this year. But
he's over 4,000.
Yeah, it's I did a bit of homework, Josh. I try not to worry too much what you guys are doing, but I suppose for us feeling a little bit bullish, he hasn't thrown a touchdown pass against the Niners this year, but he hasn't had to. Like you said, he came into our house, number 1 seed on the line. And like you said, it was good to see your team kind of rally around their leader. But what was interesting, there was no hate for Darnold in the Niners locker room because a lot of people like Darnold as a teammate and they wanted him to get paid. And as you said there, he showed at the Vikings what he can do with a good offensive line and a good scheme. And I suppose, Andy, most Seahawks fans were probably happy that they got rid of Geno. We weren't, Josh. We wanted you to keep Geno. And you've got Sam Darnold.
Don't get me wrong. Geno as a bridge QB did an all right job. Led us to the playoffs, exited in 1 round, 1 year. And apart from that, the Seahawks fan base is so divided on Geno Smith. It's either they loved him and wanted him to stay and be a franchise QB, or people really couldn't get on board following his journey as well and sort of the way he's been with the media. But Darnold's come in and it's such a fresh it's such a fresh take on having a QB because he's cool, calm, collected. He jokes with the press, the by all accounts, everyone in the organization loves him. And as you said there, opposition locker rooms that he's been on their team, they don't hate him. They want to see him do well. And I think that's sort of a redemption arc for him that hopefully he'll bring all the way to the tippy top. But the 49ers are always a team that do worry me when we play.
Well, only because last 7 of 9 we've won. So the rivalry's flipped, Josh, because I went through those hatred years of never winning. And if you're hoping Sam Darnold's going to bring some insider secrets, unfortunately, we haven't got those same defenders because they're all in the hospital. So I couldn't tell you who's going to take the field for the Niners. There's a long time between now and Saturday night. But all jokes aside, you mentioned Brock Purdy, and Andy said at the start, we have a bit of an in-joke, Josh, when I come on Andy's show, I always do, I'm feeling Purdy good, because I have been a big fan of Brock's since we drafted him, and to see him kind of now getting the props that he deserved, and I saw some of the talking heads, Shady McCoy, actually saying he's better than Jalen Hurts after that because he's more consistent, and he has put the team on his back this year. And yes, he had a quiet game in week 18, but we're just hoping it's lulled you all into a false sense of security. And on Saturday, we'll get our revenge. That's what we're hoping anyway on this side.
I don't think Mike McDonald's able to be lulled into a false sense of security. He is like dead on the center all the time. He's completely concentrated on every single game. And the one thing that we've said on our pod is that there's been a learning curve this year from the offense and defensively. Luckily, we kicked on from sort of the bye week last year. And we came into the season with that as the standard, and the standards just got better and better and better. I mean, allowing 3 points.
Oh yeah, it was drafted.
It was unreal. I mean, I don't think any of us. I mean, we host watch parties sort of virtually where we'll all sort of have a chat whilst the game's on and everything because we've got supporters in our Discord from all over the world.
Yeah, we've got Discord.
Yeah, and it's. All of us at the end of the game were just like, did we just see that? That was a defensive masterclass. And I think that's what Mike McDonald's bringing, completely changing the culture and the ethos and the scheme. And it's looking like there's a lot to be said about the defensive coaching team, but I'm going to save that because I've got a nugget that I need to share on our.
No, I mean, to be fair, McDonald was brought in for the defensive side of things. I mean, as Niners fans, we all have nightmares over that Boxing Day game against the Ravens where McDonald confused the hell out of Brock and it was his worst game that we've seen. Purdy's 2-1 against McDonald's Seahawks, and he does like to kind of confuse Brock with that late rotating safeties, the simulated pressures, and obviously under Shanahan's scheme, a lot of Brock's throws are those anticipation throws. Yep. So obviously you've gone and done your homework and you've drafted for your division. You've drafted to play against Matt Stafford. You've drafted to play against Kyle Shanahan. And as I said at the start, Andy, this Seahawks defense isn't one to be taken lightly. I mean, to be fair, Josh, will make you chuckle. When we beat you 31-13 in Seattle in 2023, our 4 podcasters have a prediction league. So every game we predict the score. You get so many points. That is the only time in the 4 years we've been doing it that I got 100% correct score. Whenever we play the Seahawks, I always go 31-13 as an in-joke. And the fact that I called you'd score 13 points, I did think we'd score more than 3. But as you said, we all kind of on this side of that fence, when the lights came on, we were all a little bit dazed. And then we had an official watch party in Leeds at the weekend where about 65 UK faithful turned up, sponsored by the Niners. And as I said, the talk all afternoon was which offense is going to show up. And obviously Kittle goes off with a ruptured Achilles. And again, a lot of people, including all those guests on Andy's show and someone who was a Niners fan who sent a video in, but it's all right, Andy. I'll take him off the hit list quite, he called an Eagles win, Josh. And for me, I just can't do it. I can't go against my team.
I even as a sports hater of the Niners, I couldn't see the Niners losing that game. The way they're coached by Shanahan, I think he's a fantastic coach. When you look at the injuries you've gone through, you've had no Fred Warner all season. Offensively, like I said, Kittle went down, but there's something about the Eagles that I just don't trust. Even though they won the Super Bowl this season, I've watched them a lot, and I just don't trust them to win those games.
Yeah, the offense was. The play calling with the Eagles very vanilla, Andy. Again, I was bullish, Josh, but I'd based it on an evidence of work that I'd seen. And like you've probably got friends from other teams. One of my closest friends is a Cowboys fan, which on paper shouldn't make sense. And he was texting me saying the Eagles are not the Eagles of old. Yes, they've got the superstars. But without boring you, Andy, that last play call, go and look at Jalen Hurts on the sideline, looking at them saying, that's what you call them with the season on the line, 4th and 11. And, I am very confident that Shanahan should win Coach of the Year. But as you said, Josh, we finished 3rd in the toughest division in football with a 12-5 record. And I think because we've been playing with house money, I think a lot of people are thinking now with our season ends on the Saturday, then basically we've already overachieved, the dead cap hit, the injuries. But don't worry, Andy, I won't be predicting the season's ending just yet,
Well, on the game as well, I want to touch on it because the Seahawks do have the league's leading receiver in Jackson Smith-Njigba. Fun fact, just a second receiver in history to have the most yards in the season whilst playing for the number 1 overall seed. Amazing team from him, and kind of with the 49ers injuries, that defense, the secondary hasn't got really any names, that's going to, blow anyone away. Lenore's probably the most standout name there, but, for you, Josh, how are you relishing that test? This 49ers, team are astute, and they can put out results with anyone, any backup, because they've got such a great coaching system. But how are you feeling about that test for him going up against this Niners secondary?
I'll be very, very honest and very candid. I care a grand total of 0 for it, because in the last game, JSN had 0 catches for 0 yards on Lenore. However, Lenore managed to give away a pretty crucial penalty, so thank you. The one thing that everyone focuses on JSN, and don't get us wrong, he is the top receiver in the NFL. We jettisoned DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett to give him the limelight for a reason. But the way this team plays is unlike a lot of teams with a number 1 wide receiver and just force the ball to him. We don't. We know if someone's going to put their best corner on him, we'll try it a couple of times, but then we spread it around. It's not just the JSN show. You've got Cooper Kupp who's making crucial catches. He's not at Triple Crown winning level, but when it comes to playoff football, he is a proven entity. We've got AJ Barner. He's been absolutely fantastic at tight end. Again, clutch. You've got our rookie 2nd round pick, Elijah Arroyo, who can blow the top of a defense from tight end. You can also play him at the X. You've got the 2 running backs as well in Walker, who somehow had a 1,000-yard season. Anyone who's watched our pod will know my feelings on Walker. And he's somehow got over 1,000 yards. And then Charbonnet, who's running 12 touchdowns. That, for me, is you've got the Sonic and Knuckles at Detroit. That's the hammer and sickle for me. Charbonnet will just pound it through the A and B gap, and then that allows Walker to take the edge. And he has been doing so well. So the weapons are there. And our O-line, like I said, barring one player who, depending on what side of the bed he wakes up on, can be a good blocker or can make Sam Darnold absolutely cack his pants because of the pressure. I think the O-line has been so stout that it's given Darnold time. And throughout the season, that's what we've seen. We've seen him look cooler, calmer, more collected. He's making these decisive throws. You know, you look at the winner against the Rams that went to Sorbert. That was just clinical. He had time in the pocket, picked the man. He literally just rolled off his block and he was there. And I think it's JSN, massive focus, big props for his award for this season. But I think it's more than just the one player you need to look at. It's pick your poison.
Yeah, they've got a balanced offense, Seattle. I mean, you mentioned that, Andy. A lot of Niners fans this year have struggled with the Robert Saleh bend but not break mentality. Now, that's how he coaches, but he's had no choice with losing Bosa, with losing Warner. If you watch the Niners, we don't have a pass rush. So, and I think there was not the week 18, it might be one of the games. Yeah, it was week 18. This against Hughes wasn't the first game of the season. He went for a massive load of yards, and in our Discord group, some of the Niners fans were worrying. And as you said, he's not their main weapon, so you're not going to just focus on shutting him down. For us, Andy, what we'd need to focus on more is really shutting down the run game, which is something we'd really struggled with until Kendricks and Willow. Yes, that's right. They're our linebackers, Kendricks and Willow.
You lost a linebacker, didn't you, this week?
Yeah, so I mean, Fred Warner's practice window's open, but I don't think he'll be playing, Josh. But just to have him back. But for us, the way Seattle play, Kyle will know how Darnold's going to play. And a big strength to their offense is Darnold been getting the ball out of his hands quickly, and JSN has been fantastic. Obviously, you keep an eye on your divisional rivals. We hated DK Metcalf. We were sorry to see him go. As a Niners fan, that tells it all. Tyler Lockett was a little bit of a surprise. I mean, the reason we were sorry to see Metcalf go is because he used to talk the talk and then stink the players out against us, and it was just weird, because given the size of him and he played as well as he spoke. But JSN has been their primary weapon this season. But I think Salah will look at their offense on a whole, and I mean, we look at week 18, that first drive, Josh. The Discord would have been different because we shut you out. The fact that you went for it with, on the fourth down, and then you came away with 0 points at that point in time, that was probably as good as it got for the Niners fans that week.
Just to underline that one. So the worst thing about that play was that the play worked. Charbonnet was free and clear. But look at where the pressure came from. So I've mentioned the right guard, and the pressure came from that side, which has been the tale of the whole season. The majority of sacks come from there.
Niners pressuring the quarterback. That doesn't happen because we just don't have a pass rush. So it was a bit of a surprise. But no, it's a good question, Andy, because he was great in college. When they drafted him, we were thinking, oh, God, that's the last thing that we need to see in our division. But he's had a great season. So you're not going to get any trash talk from me. I'm not Lenore. I'll learn my lesson. And the penalties, Josh. Funny you should mention that, though. The penalties, we were nervous going in that Eagles game because I don't know if you saw, the ref was supposed to be from Pennsylvania.
From Philly.
Eagles. Yeah. He reffed that game absolutely spot on. And we only got one penalty in the game, which was a roughing the passer. The quarterback gave himself up just as the defender was down. But we had no complaints. And hopefully the defense will put that same performance in again with the 0 penalties. Because as you said, momentum killers, especially in the playoffs, you don't want to be given stupid penalties. And I think Lenore's got a little bit overconfident in some regards because obviously he burst through, got the contract, and I think this year he's trying to kind of be that leader, like what Fred Warner's been or Bosa. But like you said, we were cursed him with those penalties in week 18.
There's a fine line between confidence and cockiness, though, and he's unfortunately tipping over into the cockiness bit. And you might be able to answer this for me because we've been musing over it on 12 Talk. Is Lenore actually a good corner? What is he like week to week? Because I every time I see him, fair play, he can cover JSN, but I don't see him doing a lot else. I don't see.
To answer your question, the reason why you probably haven't seen a lot is we've had a rookie on the other side, Upton Stout, and teams have been going after him. So you could argue, similar when you had Sherman, teams stayed away from him. Teams don't tend to go after him, and equally, we very rarely go man to man. So you were saying about teams putting their best, corner on. We don't tend to do that. We tend to kind of play a lot of zone heavy reads, or we stick in our assignments. But we do love Lenore. He said we were delighted when he signed his contract because as Andy knows the Niners getting players signed early contracts doesn't normally happen. So we were relieved it wasn't another off-season drama. And we're just jealous that you've actually got a number one wide receiver. I mean, at 45, I think I was expecting to call Josh earlier in the season. Football, if you could catch a football, maybe you should get over there. Because, I don't think anyone had DeMarcus Robinson on the bingo card for running for 100 yards and a touchdown on the Eagles. So
do you know what this is? And I'm sorry, Andy, if I'm sitting in the limelight here, but this is one thing that always annoys me when we play you. You could have a number one wide receiver. You could have a wide receiver who's really in form, but then you'll have a wide receiver 3 that has a massive game against us. And I have to do loads of research as to who they are, because I follow you guys on the sort of top level, but when it comes to sort of your depth chart, no idea. So I'm looking through and going, who's this guy? Why has he just gone for 100 yards and a touchdown on us? I have no idea. Like Juwan Jennings came out of nowhere sort of 2 seasons ago, wasn't it? And he had the game of his life against us.
7th-round pick, I think. And, I mean, Jake Tongas this year, about after week 1, you were like 88.
Yeah,
tight ends. You only ever play George Kittle, don't they? Like you said. So it's likewise. You've drafted well. You've got some. Your defense. It's looking Legion of Boom-esque. And I think when Andy texted me this morning, I think he was hoping I was going to bring a little bit more kind of hatred towards the Seahawks. But there was a respect there, for us. We were humbled in week 18. We did think we were going to win that game. We did think the offense was going to fire. But I suppose when you get to this stage, and this will be the 3rd meeting between the 2 teams, literally now, Andy, anything could happen on Saturday night. And there's that kind of familiarity and the fact that the rivalry's bubbling again. And it's weird to see, Lumen Field. Do you think it's going to be loud? Because, the last few years, as you said, Josh, it hasn't been.
So, but regardless of how closely you follow the Seahawks, we have had over the last few years some issues with season ticket holders reselling tickets to rival fans. And it has really impacted the feel of Lumen, the absolute wall of noise that people talk about, just completely pressing down on the field. Whereas for this game, there was an email actually sent out by the Seahawks organization to season ticket holders to say that if you are found to be selling your tickets to rival fans, then, your eligibility for season ticket next season will be compromised, which is the right thing to do. I mean, every time we've played Green Bay over the last few years, Green Bay fans travel so well. And I hate to say it, but they do. And you see that stadium. And obviously, you see from the TV copies usually where the away fans are anyway. But I've got friends that are in the stadium and they do a full sort of panoramic view. And when you've got like Green Bay or the Niners, you guys travel really well as well. Yeah. You see so much like green or red in that stadium. You're thinking, what has happened? I think what's changed now, though, especially after last year, Mike McDonald's brought some belief back into the fan base. We said this would be a 3-year rebuild, but he's well ahead of the bell curve. If we can get past you guys on Saturday, then it looks like the NFC matchup, like for the championship, will probably be against the Rams.
I mean, to be fair, you're saying that. So in 2023, 40 of us went over to Levi Stadium. The Niners invited us, and we went to see the game against the Buccaneers. And a few stayed on and went up to Seattle. And at the time, when the email came around, I was thinking, I don't fancy this, Josh, an away fan and that. And like you said, weirdly, the invasion took over. Yep. But the Seattle fans in the stadium, I'm going back a couple of years ago, there was that kind of sense of doom. Geno Smith was still a quarterback. The Niners fans said the Seattle fans were quite nice to them. They were chatting. Well, like you said, we're preparing for you to be loud on Saturday. I think we need to see Brock with his play calling. We need to see Brock get the ball out of his hands quickly. We had a few issues on Saturday where he couldn't hear, and obviously he's tapping his helmet, and the Eagles were loud. But I suppose part of our game plan, which we'll try and replicate for Saturday, is we went into Lincoln Field and we literally started on fire. And we were joking, we'd scored on the first drive. We're like, we've already got more points than we did against Seattle. This is already a win. And, it's kind of those low bars to those high moments. But no, you're right. McDonald's done a fantastic job. It is crazy, Andy, Saturday now as NFL fans. And there's 25% of the coaching jobs out. And I mean, it's just crazy.
It's ridiculous. So many have gone. Or Mike Tomlin stepped down for the Steelers. And my best friend, the best man at my wedding, is a Steelers fan, and he loves Mike Tomlin. But every time at the end of a season, I'm like, "Oh, this was a winning season." And he's like, "Yeah, lovely, 9-8 again. Love that." But then you've got that's it. But then you look at now, it's very much that definition of insanity. I keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So, are you going to hire one of these head coaches that have been sacked to become your head coach, to then possibly just keep that cycle going? Or, as we're finding out, we've got Clint Kubiak was interviewed for like 5 jobs. Aidan Durdy, who is the British defensive coordinator for us, he's interviewed for about 4 as well. I think we're probably going to see a lot of that this year. I think there's going to be a bit of a change.
Well, that's the same with us, Josh. I mean, Shanahan coaching tree, we're talking about Salah. The talk halfway through the season was because Salah was doing so well, Andy. We were like, right, as long as one of those top jobs doesn't come available, like the Ravens or the Steelers, where they don't sack the head coaches, and then the news,
lo and behold,
the Giants have fired the coaches and the Titans are fighting. You think, yeah, you're right. Like you said, because we were thinking as well, Josh, Salah's been to the Jets, didn't go so well. So he's probably going to get one more shot. But obviously, I think the talk in the Niners organization, come back, rebuild your reputation. And I mean, to be fair, the bar was low because Sorensen as a defensive coordinator was absolutely dreadful.
Yeah.
Let's not make no bones about that. But the work he's done this year without his key pieces. And again, I'm not sitting here, Andy, all war before the Niners. The cliched talk of next man up has been the attitude this year. And I'm being quite proud of our fan base that we haven't, gone on about the injuries. It's the NFL. We are only the 3rd most injured team. There's actually the Cardinals and the Commanders have got worse injuries than us. But as you said, Josh, I think the nod around the Niners is actually Shanahan's just got on with it. Salah has just got on with it. And actually, some of these rookies have got playing time this year, Andy, that they wouldn't have got. So the Lenore conversation, Upton Stout, for me, has had an amazing season. But if you look at the stats and if you look at some of the mistakes he's made, but he's grown because he's had that kind of... And the Eagles went after him. And he was, breaking passes up. And we were helped, Josh, on Sunday, by the Eagles' star receivers dropping some passes. But that's the NFL for you. We had Brock Purdy making that mistake a second before halftime, not stepping out of bounds. I can't tell you what we were shouting at that screen when the ball came out. And you go in 13-10 down and you think, oh, the Eagles are getting the ball back. Brock throws 2 turnovers. You always preach, don't lose a turnover battle. We lost a turnover battle. We lost the time of possession, but the Eagles only put 6 points on us in the second half. And seeing this defense grow week on week has been great. And the Niners in the playoffs, Josh, is a different beast to the regular season.
So this is where I think, and we have this joke with our American followers that as a Brit, as an Englishman, I try and stay level. I don't get too high on something or too low. I've been hurt before. I don't want to be hurt again, type thing. And the Niners, like I said, are always a team that I'm very wary of because you'll pull it out in the big games. I have a lot of confidence in our team, especially our defense with the way they're playing, that they'll kick on with that because they are hungry. We've got hungry vets. We've got our big cat. You've got DeMarcus Lawrence, who both of them voted into All Pro Bowl. Then you look throughout. You've got Spoon. You've got Ernest Jones. We've got players there that want to make a difference, and that's something that we didn't seem to have previously. We just had players that were going, yeah, we'll play this game, see what happens, whereas they want to win this all, and that's a shift in mindset.
Paul, but one final thing I want to ask you about before we move on to our predictions, and we have got some exciting news later on in the show, so stay tuned for that. But Paul, obviously one of the biggest news coming out of the Eagles game we haven't talked about yet is the George Kittle season-ending Achilles injury that took place. And, you're going up against a Seahawks defense that, is 10th in the league against the pass, and they're top of the league when it comes to run games. And not only are you going up against this defense, which already has, the likes of Witherspoon, the likes of Imran Wari, I probably completely butchered that name. You've got many others, Kobe Bryant. It's a great secondary. And, the fact you're losing one of the, well, for me personally, top 3 tight end in the league in George Kittle. Some would argue maybe first in the league. And then you think about...
He's the best.
You think about as well, the biggest threat to a Seahawks defense is the best running back in the league in McCaffrey, but they're also the best team at stopping the run. Does that worry you, or does what you mentioned earlier, the fact that you dealt with all the injuries this year, you've had, Juwan Jennings has thrown more touchdown passes in the playoffs than Justin Herbert has in his career. does that the fact that Shanahan has so many injuries had seemed to overcome these injuries, and not even just this year, he's overcome staffing changes in years gone by. If you exclude the name of Sorensen, kind of does that give you confidence that Shanahan, despite all the injuries, despite the second biggest star on the offense being out for the season, that he can go to a place like Lumen Field, take on the number 1 seed with one of the best defenses in the league, and go and win this game?
You mean like we did in week 1 when George Kittle wasn't playing and
I will say that in week 1 the Raiders beat the Patriots, so week 1 should not be.
You asked to answer the question. I'm smiling. No, I mean, to be fair, as I said earlier, we need to quiet the crowd. You talk about CMC. The Eagles stopped CMC in the run game. CMC didn't have a touchdown going into the 4th quarter, but scored 2 beautiful touchdowns, which I will not stop watching for as long as this week goes on. But circle back to Kittle, obviously similar to Josh with the Seahawks. We've got our flag, our colours. After lockdown, Josh, we had a meet up in Bristol, 2021. And it was when we'd launched the new, the red with the throwback numbers. And, like your fan base, you prefer your stuff from the States. So we'd kind of all put our orders in, not communicating with everyone. We rocked up at said meetup, and everybody had an 85 jersey on. And it was a bit like the Rodgers and the Packers a few years ago. So we decided to own it, get everybody around the flag, take a photo, and just put it on social media. And then George liked it, George retweeted it, and then we sent him a flag. And on our social medias, he's paused with a flag. So we have a nickname of Club 85. So George is held in great esteem. But to answer Andy's question, from my head and not my heart, Kittle has had injury concerns over the last few years. We've had to learn to play without him. A big reason of going to get Ferrell in off the season was to try and free up Kittle from the blocking game a little bit. And Shanahan's had to evolve his offense, Andy. So we're not a run-heavy offense. Brock Purdy dropped back 32 times on Sunday against the Eagles. 31 of those, he was untouched. He was distributing the ball, as Josh was saying, like Darnold was. He doesn't just have a number 1 receiver. He doesn't have a number 2 receiver. They're like 4, 5, 6 on the depth chart, but he's spreading the ball around. And Shanahan showed with that play call to Jennings, we saw that in 2019 when Sanders threw it to Mostert. It's not a new trick play. I know the Bears have tried it under Johnson, but what was interesting, and when you love the NFL like we all three do, that play was set up 3 plays earlier when we tried a jet sweep. And the Eagles defense didn't go with the one man you should follow is Christian McCaffrey. So apparently they were like in the booth, hang on a minute, let's try that again. And again, poetry in motion when you see it. And again, though, because we're so close, the Seahawks and the Niners, that there was another game, the game we won 31-13, and Brock did the double pump fake and then threw it down the middle to Kittle. And we were all laughing and joking. And then Seattle came straight back in the next game and did the same thing to us. So it just goes to show, Andy, that I think you will be seeing some things that you won't have seen. I think CMC, for me, has been the offensive weapon because we've had nobody else. We have run him into the ground with touches, but if you've been watching the Niners over the last few weeks, it's not a run-heavy usage with McCaffrey. You'll see him in the slot. You'll see him as a receiver. You'll see Brock Purdy go to him as his safety valve. And I think Jake Tonjes, he's been a red zone target. So I'm not saying he's the level that Kittle's been, Andy, but we wish him a speedy recovery. My story's well known. I ruptured my Achilles at the age of 42. So I do know the pain that he was going through. And as soon as he went down on Sunday, I was like, that's an Achilles tendon, 100%. So he had the surgery this morning, but he's probably looking at 9 to 12 months out. And it's just such a loss to our locker room on top of Warner, on top of Bosa, on top of some of the others. But to answer your question a rather long-winded way, Andy, I think Shanahan will be scheming for this Seattle defense. And it's going to come down to this coaching masterclass. Is Kyle going to get the offense firing like he did in week 1? Or is McDonald going to get that defense firing like it was in week 18? So,
well, let's go and predict the winner of the game. Before we go on to our prediction, some quick stats. The Seahawks do lead the series between these two teams by 32 to 24. And also, this is just the 3rd ever meeting in the playoffs between the Seahawks and the Rams. They've both won 1 each, including that infamous Richard Sherman outburst following the NFC Championship game. And before we go on to our predictions, let's hear some predictions via voice notes or via video message from some of our previous guests who support either the Niners or the Seahawks, starting off with friend of the show in the Third and Longs, Phil Perrins.
What's up, everybody? It's Dr. Perrins here, repping the 49ers, the red and gold as always. My predictions for the divisional round this weekend, I'm still going to double down on what I say. Do I think the 49ers are going to beat the Seattle Seahawks? No. But last week I said the exact same thing where I thought the Eagles would beat the 49ers, hoping in my heart of hearts that they wouldn't. The 49ers win. Despite the fact that we've lost Kittle, despite the fact that we have a plethora of injuries, every time I talk about the 49ers, every time anybody talks about the 49ers, they bring up the plethora of injuries and how we are broken, battered and bruised, and how we've gotten to this point here. You cannot kill this team. You cannot defeat this team. The 49ers won't beat the Seahawks. Go Niners.
Hi, it's your boy Daniel. You know what it is. You know what time it is. It's the prediction for the playoffs. You got Seattle versus the 49ers. Now, obviously, I'm going to go with my Seattle. Sorry, I was going to say 49ers. They're not mine. I'm definitely going to go with Seattle. Obviously, I think they're going to win. They've got the best defense. Obviously, look, when it came to the regular season, we did beat them last. Obviously, they beat us before that, so we won't talk about that. But obviously, as we started to get into form, they've come in and they started to play and beat us. So I think for us, it's for Seattle, I think it's a Seattle win, and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Go playoffs, go Seahawks.
Well, there we are. That is now time for us to predict who we think will win the game on Saturday. Now, Josh, we'll go to you first. Who do you think will win this weekend?
I'm full of bias. I'm not going to lie. I think the Seahawks are going to win. I think this season's just been a testament to how far we've come and how well Mike Mack and his coaching staff have us playing. I don't foresee us holding the Niners to 3, but I don't foresee us scoring 13 either. So do you know what? I'm going to reverse this, Paul. 31-13 to the Seahawks.
Paul, now it's time for you to give your prediction. Now, you kind of alluded to who you think is going to win the game, but let us know who wins.
Yeah, I'm glad you went to Josh first. I think as the number 1 seed, they'd earned that right. And seeing his setup and just chatting to him tonight, I'm smirking because he's just me in a Seattle Seahawks fan get up. And they always say on our show, Josh, that I'm always ultra confident. And similar to you, I think I gravitated to the NFL because I was sick of the highs and lows of English football and the rivalry. So I do like I take it within my stride. I think the Niners are going to win, Andy. I think it's going to be close. I mean, you mentioned Richard Sherman there. I didn't ever think, Josh, that I'd have him unblocked on social media. I hated Richard Sherman after that because Colin Kaepernick was my boy. But I think the Niners win this one. I think it's going to be 20-17. I think it's going to be an absolute nail biter. I think it's going to go end to end. But I am confident, as Josh is, in his team. I'm confident in mine. And you've got a bit of an exclusive there, Andy, because we're not recording our pod till tomorrow. Now, I'm not normally supposed to give away my scores, but it won't surprise you, Josh, that I'm at the bottom out of the 4, because every week I say Niners win, and you get points for the other way around. So, the others play with the head. I always play with my heart. But Andy, thank you for having me on, buddy. It's always been a pleasure. And Josh, apart from this Saturday, I would say it's been nice to chat to you, but all jokes aside, I was just hoping for a great game. And 1 a.m., Jesus, they like to make us wait up late, don't they, Josh?
1 a.m. on a Sunday morning as opposed to a Monday morning. So I am all over that, although my 6-year-old daughter probably won't understand why I'm so tired on Sunday. But it's been absolute pleasure. Paul, even though you're a Niners fan, great to chat to you, mate. It's nice to speak to another British guy in, the same sort of mindset. And Andy, thank you so much for having us on. Really, really appreciate it.
Well, pleasure's all mine, gents. Good having you on. Now, I have gone for a Niners win as well, just to please Paul and sorry, Josh. I just feel like
the check's in the post, Andy. Well done, son.
Expect some sarcastic messages from me over social media when we win.
Well, for me, I just think that we haven't seen Darnold yet perform in a playoff game. And I know this is all previous teams and all that and different coaching and all that, but I just feel like I've seen the Niners, I've seen Shanahan made the Super Bowl twice. I've seen Purdy make a Super Bowl. I've seen Purdy make an NFC Championship game. So far, as good as the Seahawks team have been, we've seen teams perform well in regular seasons and struggle in the postseason. We've never seen McDonald coach a playoff game. We've seen Donald have one playoff game and he lost pretty badly. So for me, I think I'm going to go for experience. I do think, I'm kind of again, like any game this weekend, I'm not going to be shocked if I'm wrong because, the Seahawks team are number one seed for a reason. And I think we do see sometimes some teams, they sort of become rusty after having a week off. Some teams relish that week off. Some teams use it as a chance to rest and they come back better. But some teams, we saw with the Ravens in 2020 season or 2019 season, number one seed, play the Titans after a week off. And the week before, they're sort of already planning to be the number one seed. So we see teams have this week off and they can sometimes hurt them. And I feel like the Niners have that bit of experience for me more than the Seahawks right now. And I think we've seen the Niners more than anyone prove that they can do it without injuries. I think they're the one team that you could back on a 6 seed against a 1st seed more than I think any other team in the NFL. But we will quickly as well move on to our Rams-Bears game. We'll do a quick touch on it because we have been talking for a long time now, but we are going to quickly, for the last 5 minutes, just quickly run through Rams-Bears. Some quick stats I want to run through to you with the Rams-Bears. So this has actually been a game that's been played 97 times in history, including 2 postseason games, with the Bears having won the most 55 times compared to a 39 for the Rams. Now, one stat I want to bring you guys, which I don't know how much that'll influence your decision, but Matt, I want to credit this account I found on Twitter that did go through. It's called Seahawk Nerd, and they said that Matt Stafford, his last 10, I think there's snow expected in Chicago as well. His last 10 games outdoors in the rain or snow, he has a 1-9 record with 16 touchdowns, 11 picks, and the Rams' last game in Chicago, they have a 2-8 record with a minus 109 point differential. And the current forecast for Sunday afternoon's game in Chicago is 20 degrees Fahrenheit with 80 miles per hour winds with a 55% chance of snow. So the odds are stacked against the Rams for this game. But I'm going to pick the Rams to win. Even with that, I think records are there to be broken. I think we saw Caleb Williams struggle for a lot of this game, and the Bears team overall struggled a lot against Green Bay. I think they were just helped by a massive collapse. I think 9 times out of 10, like that game against the Packers in the regular season, 9 times out of 10, they lose that game. And I think the Rams pose more of a threat than the Packers would, I think, without Parsons. I thought the Packers would win because I thought they know the NFC North rivalry, they'll be up for it. But I think, they have been pulled down because of that Parsons injury. Whereas I think, against a better team like the Rams, I do back the Rams to win. I've said that the Rams will win the Super Bowl since about week 6, so I've got to stick with that.
Give with one hand, Andy. Take
awful
with the other.
take.
Niners
Awful
win and then say Rams Super Bowl win. Me and Josh are both joined in like.
What's that?
Paul, stick with you actually. Who do you think is going to win this game on Sunday?
So I've got no logic to this other than my new boss is a Bears fan. So I've known him for a long time. He started at my place 6 months ago. It's been great, Josh, to have someone in the workplace to talk real football with. Yeah. And we've been joking all season long that it's going to be a Bears-Niners NFC Championship game. Now, that would come full circle for me because the reason I'm a Niners fan is Kaepernick's first start was against the Bears on Monday Night Football. And out of the two, the Seahawks and the Rams, I dislike the Rams. I just dislike the fan base. I dislike some people I know who go on, yes, they won the Super Bowl. Well, the 3 or 4 of them that I know tend to come after me on social media because I'm very vocal. And as a Niner, if we lose this game and the Rams win, that's an utter disaster for us, with the Super Bowl being at Levi's. And the joke is if the Seahawks or the Rams win the Super Bowl, Andy, we're going to have to burn that stadium down and move. So on that note, I'm going for a Niners win and I'm going for a Bears win. I don't have to worry about that. But as you said there, I think the Rams and Stafford, I mean, he obviously came from Detroit, but the Rams-Bears are the 2 teams that can lose any NFL game in the weirdest way possible. And they're playing each other on Sunday. So something strange is going to happen. But I just think maybe with Williams and the fact that the Bears have got a decent offensive line and the way they've played this year with the run game, I'm going for the Bears to beat the Rams.
And Josh?
I'm going the other side of the coin on this one. Purely, I see it being a heavy running game, but the Rams' defensive front is nothing to be trifled with. It's pretty good, isn't it? And I can see them really getting after Caleb, putting him under so much duress that even though he's a second-year player, he has played all right this year, albeit he's won games with some just throwing hopes.
That one against the Packers, though. That's momentum, though, isn't it, Josh? That's the thing that builds your confidence. I mean, that should have been picked off an incompletion. Now it
should have been. It threw into like quadruple coverage. But I think this is going to be a Rams win. I think that having a QB with the experience of Stafford, even though his neck is held on by, dental floss, I think when you've got the running back tandem of Williams and Corum, I think Puka and Akua, as much as I loathe to say it, they've been using them at the backfield as well, which will give them a lot more oomph there. O-line is stout enough. I can just see the experience of McVay and the Packers, not the Rams, winning that one.
Yeah, I mean, you make a point about Stafford's injury. I mean, he had the injury. I can't remember what cause it was, but the injury to a throwing hand during the Panthers game, and that sort of did turn the tide a bit. And I think we saw that helped in a long way the Panthers get back in that game. Before that happened, it was pretty one-sided, and I think that does have a big impact. I think if Stafford still has problems with that hand, I think that will give the Bears such a great chance to win this game. But I think if Stafford's hand is fine now, or at least somewhat back to what it was, then I think that could be a bit more problematic. And I do think as well for the Bears, that was a very emotional win they had against the Packers. I mean, Ben Johnson say F the Packers post-game, and it felt like their Super Bowl, if I'm honest, winning that game, because they haven't won. That was their first playoff win in 15 years. But then we have seen a sort of reversal what happened last year. Commanders win late on against the Bears. They go on to reach the NFC Championship game. Now the Bears have beaten the Commanders later on this season, and they could have some. And they are the second seed for a reason, so we shouldn't really count them out. So again, I want the Bears to win the whole Super Bowl, not just the NFC. So for me, I'm hoping they win, but I just feel like it's the Rams' time to win it. But yeah, again, if Stafford if his hand isn't up to scratch, and I do worry for Rams quite a lot, because I think that we saw what happened in that game without him being at his best. It wasn't great, and they allowed what is a team with a losing record to get back into that game, even though they were away from home.
Hi Andy and the Across the Pod listeners, James Gowers here again from the Irish Bears Network, here to give my prediction for the divisional round between my beloved Chicago Bears and the Los Angeles Rams that's going to be taking place this Sunday. My goodness, what a last game that was for the Bears. A brilliant victory against our arch rivals Green Bay Packers. An unbelievable ending, and the offense and defense both hung in there and got the job done. For us Bears fans, we prefer for it to be less heart in the mouth, but that's been the story of our season. Now we're going to be coming up against a tough Rams team, a team that I actually had winning the Super Bowl. So, I'm going to go against the grain, and you might have your home fans usually backing your team. I do think the Bears' unbelievable season probably will end here. I've got 24-17 to the Rams. Hopefully it's bear weather though, and that might affect how the Rams play and Matthew Stafford, and hopefully we can see some more Caleb magic to prove me wrong. What I have said is, if the Bears do indeed win this game against the Rams, I will be painting my nails orange and navy. So watch this space. I do hope we can win. We have, the talent to be able to, but I just think that Rams offense and defense might just be one step too far for us as Chicago Bears fans. I'm being realistic. I am dreaming of getting all the way, but let's see what happens. It's going to be a great game, another great occasion, and bear down.
This is Ben Isaacs, writer, broadcaster, author of The American Football Revolution, How Britain Fell in Love with the NFL. And I want to talk about this Bears-Rams divisional playoff. I'm not going to go as far as the likes of Alex Smith saying this is going to be a blowout, that the Rams are going to hang 50 on the Bears, it's going to be no contest. But I do think the Rams are going to win. I think something like 37-28. I think the way the Bears defense played against Green Bay, a competent offense would have absolutely gone to town on the Bears and would have got nearly 40 points. If the Packers had the players that the Rams do, I think that's what the outcome would have been. The lead would have been too big for the Bears to come back. So I think the Bears will score points, but I would imagine that the Rams will get a lead that the Bears just cannot surpass, even with some Caleb Williams magic. It's got to be the Rams.
But there we are. That is both our predictions done. So in the Rams side, in the Niners against Seahawks, it's 2-1 in favour of the Niners. Both me and Paul have picked the Niners. Whereas in Rams Bears, it's a 2-1 victory for the Rams over the Bears, as me and Josh have also gone for the Rams, whereas Paul has gone for the Bears. So,
I mean, to be fair, Andy, before you finish off, a Rams win will be better for the Niners because it'd just be going home, Levi South, and it would just be, a closer to. I'm just going to get a reaction now just before we finish.
Well, no reaction.
Well, you mentioned Levi South, and I'm hoping you don't burn the place down, Paul, because our news is I'm going to go into the Super Bowl. I'm going to be there for the entire week. The podcast is heading to Santa Clara, to the West Coast, as we are going to be covering the Super Bowl like we did last year in New Orleans. Once again, no game access. We won't be, I'm hoping to have, I have been saving up for tickets. I'm hoping to be at the game. But either way, if I don't go to the game, I'll be there throughout the week. Basically, I'm not fussing a hard time show. And if it is Bills or Patriots involved, I don't think I want to see them win a Super Bowl in person. So that money might be saved for the following year. But either way, I'll be going to the opening night. I'll be going to team hotels to interview players, whoever is involved in the game. As well as this, everything you saw last year, so Radio Row access, going to the Man of the Year Community Day. Hopefully that is going on this year. So yeah, keep an eye out on the channel on all socials, whether it's TikTok, Andy Talks NFL, or across _the pod on Instagram, and also X, if you want to keep up with all the content during that week. But in the meantime, first of all, Paul, Josh, huge thank you for coming on today.
No, you're welcome, buddy. I mean, just before Josh speaks, we do have some Niners fans going out for the Super Bowl. So all jokes aside, if you do want, don't get tickets to the game, they haven't got tickets to the game. They're just going to be in San Francisco. And I've always liked you, Andy. And if there's any room in that suitcase for any goodies to come back, you've got my address. But all jokes aside, obviously I do the 49er Faithful UK pods. In the last few years, Josh, I've tried to kind of branch out into other channels. And Andy's one of my go-to guys. He's been a great friend to me. We haven't met in person yet. It's going to happen. But whenever he puts the bat signal out and asks for me to do a podcast, Andy's one of those that I always clear my schedule for. And I love chatting football with him. And you mentioned going after him on social media. That's what I did at the weekend, because a lot of his guests didn't have the time to win until he woke up on Sunday morning like, oh, God, Paul's been tagging the group in it. But I love the community that you created, Andy. And I do like the fact that you're going to be out there covering the games and you've got a dream. And you're attacking that dream, and I like that. The likes of me and Josh, we're just two idiots who love our team, who go in front of a camera and talk football. And I mean that in the nicest possible way, Josh, because my missus,
no offense taken,
who wants to listen to you wearing that get-up? What on earth are you talking about? And so, yeah, when I said to her at dinner at the door, I'm doing a pod with Andy from across the pod, she always kind of says, right, I'll see you in a couple of hours. But thank you for having me on, Andy. I have enjoyed this one. And as Josh said, even though he's a Seattle fan, it has been good fun. And I look forward to coming back on next week.
Yeah. Andy, I just want to say a massive thank you as well. Paul, you've been brilliant. Andy, thank you very much for inviting me on. I know it's my first time on, hopefully not the last. It's very rare I wear a Seahawks jersey to a podcast. Usually on ours, on 12 Talk, I'll wear something else. I've got multiple plaid shirts that go with pretty much every hat that you guys saw before. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. Congratulations, mate, going to the Super Bowl again. And so you say you're saving up for a ticket, get out there and sell a kidney. Why not? Wow. It's got to be something you can do. See whose palm you can grease. It'd be awesome to see it all over social media. That's where I started following you. And I really just appreciate you sort of inviting us on. And if you ever need anyone to talk Seahawks again, by all means, maybe next week after the win. More than happy to come on.
Well, yeah, pleasure having you on, mate. It's really good having you on for your debut appearance. And yeah, I mean, to be fair, I want to share a little hack with anyone who is listening to the podcast or watching it. If you're in if anyone's in and around the stadium, check StubHub or Ticketmaster an hour before kickoff. So I found tickets, didn't have the money back then to get it last year. I was in New Orleans. I was actually watching in the stadium, but just underground. It was a really weird scenario. But tickets went down to $1,500 an hour before kickoff. So my plan is I'm not spending $6,000. That's ridiculous. But I think for me, my plan is to have about £1,500 saved up. And I think if I see it an hour before kickoff, I'll be in the stadium, again, in the media workroom, not in the press box. And I see tickets for $1,500 or less, I'm buying it. So if anyone is going to Santa Clara and you haven't got a ticket, but you have got a spare $1,500, but you've not got the $6,000 for a ticket, bear that in mind. Keep your phone handy because tickets do go down just before kickoff. So that's my plan. It may be the case where that's not happening this year. So, it may be the case where people aren't selling them that cheaply. But, for me, yeah, that is the plan, and that is my tip for anyone who's going to be in the area.
It's great that you're getting out, Andy. Like I said, there's a lot from our group are going out, and when Andy came on our show, Josh, I'm not great on Photoshop, but Andy had been to San Francisco, and we got a photo of him at the Golden Gate Bridge and a photo of when I went, and my mate merged it together. And Andy was like, "How have you done that?" I was like, "I don't know. We've just got someone who can do that."
The magic of Photoshop.
Our shared love of Steph Curry, and I remember chatting to you a few years ago, Andy, and it was before you got the media passes. It was before you're covering the games, and then you've put the work in behind the scenes. And as I said, I do this as a hobby, as a passion, and I know how excited I get when one of our videos kind of goes viral for what we see. More than 2 people watch it, but keep doing what you're doing, buddy. And I know Will Gavin will be over there covering the game for TalkSport. Now, he is a Niners fan, Josh, and last week he called for an Eagles win. So I'll let him off.
He was supposed to come on our pod. So
he was also worried because we had an official watch party in Leeds, and our watch party record in the regular season isn't great, but in Leeds in the playoffs we're 2-0. Unfortunately, the 1 a.m. time this weekend has put paid to it. But yeah, wherever you're watching the game from, be loud and proud. And Josh, it has been an honour to talk to you, buddy. And Andy, thanks for having me on.
No problem at all, gents. And yeah, looking forward to the whole week. As well as this, I do fly into San Fran 4 hours before the Warriors play the Pistons. And my hotel is half an hour drive from the airport, and the stadium is a half an hour drive from there. And of course, everyone who knows on the podcast by now, I went to San Fran to watch Steph Curry play. He got injured, so I'm hoping this time around, provided no plane delays, I'll be able to watch him play in person, which I've dreaded about for years. So yeah, looking forward to that and bringing you guys along the way on all socials. But yeah, this has been the Across the Pod NFL podcast, our NFC Divisional Round preview with, as ever, your guest today, myself, Andy Davis. Your host today, in myself, Andy Davis. As well as this, we got our guests in 49ers fan, Paul Hope from 49er Faithful UK, and Josh from 12 Talk. And we will put in the description, we will put all the links to their podcasts, their feeds, and their socials, all in this. So if you want to have more and look into more about what they do, head over to the description and make sure you give them a follow if you haven't already. And also use code Andy5 at checkout on fantasygameday.app. In the meantime, this has been Across the Pod, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care.